Hey guys, and welcome back to another one of my video tutorials. My name's Simon Archer. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create an email sending function from your application using Swift and Xcode. So sometimes you want to be able to receive feedback from your users. A nice way to do this sometimes is to allow them to submit their feedback via an email. One of the use cases for this would be, for instance, you show them a rate me pop-up saying, please rate our application, and you can say that if they don't like the application for whatever reason, or if they think that they can submit some feedback which could improve the application, then they can then just click the feedback button, which opens up an email which they can compose and send to you, rather than leaving a negative feedback on the App Store for whatever reason. So just going to show you, run through you pretty quickly what it looks like. I'm just going to run the demo on my phone here. So you'll see that I'm going to show you pretty much what to do in these cases. So you'll see that I have a rate us row here. If you tap on the rate us, a little pop-up will appear. This is your standard pop-up which you see in applications, which asks you to rate the application, but we're adding a send us feedback button as well. And so when the user taps send us feedback, it's going to pop up an email form for them to send, and they can type whatever and send it off to you. Or you can just have a normal feedback button over here, and then tapping on that will do the same thing. Will launch the compose email. So let's get onto this. So first things first, we're going to create a new project. So let's go new project. I'm going to call it, well, it's a single view application. Call it email demo. You can call it whatever you want in Swift. Don't forget the Swift project, and just save it to your folder, wherever you want to save it to. Alright, so I'm just going to quickly run through setting this project up for you. First of all, let's add a TableView controller, just so we can have a list like I had in the demo, but it's up to you how you want to do this. Alright, I want to get rid of my main view controller that's there by default, so I don't want that. I'm going to select TableView controller, and I'm going to say is initial view controller. So this will launch on startup. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is make this a 4.7-inch size, just so it looks like what to expect. And then I'm going to select the table view, and the content I'm going to put to static cells. I'll just be quicker to whip this demo up for you. So static cells, let's have 2 rows. Alright, the first row we can style will be basic. We can just say here rate us, and then the second row will also be basic, and we'll just say send feedback. Alright, so a very simple, this is just purely for demo purposes, but very simple 2-button application which will trigger 2 flows, a rate us flow to feedback, or a send us feedback action straight away. Alright, so now that we have that, let's go and create our TableView class that we're going to run all the logic for this TableView controller. So we're going to right click on email demo, go new file, CocoaTouch class, and I'm going to call this feedback control. Alright, make sure the subclass is UITableView controller. That's important. We're going to go next and just save it to your project. Cool. So let's just quickly go back to our main storyboard. We're going to select our TableView controller in the storyboard, open up the side panel over here, and then let's go to the identity expector, and the class we're going to just say feedback control TableView, the one we made. We're going to make sure that we select this class for this view controller. The reason for that is so we can link the file, the logic, to this controller. Alright, so now that we have that, let's go open up the Swift file. Let's close the sidebar. Alright, so now you'll see that it generates a lot of code for you, and I'm just going to give you a quick demonstration. If you were to run this right now, what are you going to see? So let me just quickly run this in the simulator. Alright, so you would expect to see 2 rows, and you'll see that in the demo we have nothing. So the reason for this, if this is your first time using this TableView controller, is that you'll see that number of section TableView, this default code that's written, returns 0 for number of section TableView, and the TableView number of rows in the section returns 0. So by default the code is returning nothing. So because we're using static rows, static sections, static cells, basically we want to show whatever it is that we create in the storyboard. So you can just go ahead and actually select this code and comment it out. I'm going to let the storyboard automatically return the number of sections and number of rows. So if we run this again now with that code commented out, the important part, this return 0, is no longer being returned. You'll see now that we have our 2 rows. Alright, rate us and send feedback. Currently they do nothing, but we now have the 2 rows there. So now we want to add logic to do something when you touch those rows. So to do that, let's add this. So I'm just going to go ahead and actually I'm going to delete all this commented out code, because for the demo purpose it just makes it a little bit messy. So I'm going to delete all of that, and for this demo I'm actually going to delete this memory warning function. It's not necessary for the demo. Alright, so in order to pick up the logic behind picking up what row was tapped, we're going to add this piece of code. So there's a function for your TableView that has did select row index path, and it sends the index path as a value for the TableView. And I've added a print line here saying index path dot description. So let me just add selected row equals index path dot description. So if I run this application now again, you'll see if I tap rate us in our console, we'll see that path equals 0-0. If I click send feedback, path equals 0-1. So the first value is the section. So your TableView can have multiple sections, each with the number of cells per section. And the second value is obviously the row of that section. And obviously because this is 0-based array type stuff, the first section would be start at 0, the second section would be at 1, etc. And the first row would be 0, the second row would be 1. So now that we know what path or what cell we're clicking on, we can add some logic now to do something when those rows are clicked. So now we can do that by saying if indexPath.section equals 0 and indexPath.row is equal to 1, then print this line. And because our row for rate is actually row 0, that'll be more correct. And we can copy this and paste it and say if indexPath.section equals 0 and indexPath.row equals 1, for the feedback we can say feedback row tapped. So let's try this again. Let's run this demo. And tap on rate us row tapped, tap on feedback row tapped. Great. So now that we can actually perform logic in these two things. Alright, so in order to get the email compose feature working, we need to import or add the library into our project. So let's go to our project file over here, go to build phases. Under build phases, we're going to go to link binary with libraries, and we're going to click on the plus sign. So now we're going to search for the MessageUI.framework and go add. So this adds a framework into our project which we need in order to use the message compose functionality. So now that we have the MessageUI.framework in our project, we can go back to our feedback control file. Under import UI kits, we can go import MessageUI. So that's the name of the framework we just imported over here. Next, we want to add the MF mail, and you'll see a whole bunch pops up here. Compose view controller delegate file. Alright, so make sure it's the mail compose view controller delegate and not the message. Alright, because we're going to be using the email compose view controller delegate. So select that. Cool. So next thing we want to do is actually now prepare the Compose View Controller. So we're going to add the following code over here called configured mail compose view controller. So you can just copy and paste this or just check it out what I'm doing here, but basically I'm creating a new variable mail composer view controller of mf mail compose view controller. I'm going to set the mail compose delegate to itself. Alright, so make sure that you set the mail compose delegate property, not the delegate property. Alright, so there's two delegate type of properties on this view controller. Make sure it's this one, not the normal delegate property. Next thing you want to do is set the recipients. So you can put your email address here and you can add an array of emails if you wanted to as well. Okay. So you can add your email into that. Set the subject. This can be anything you want. I set it to app feedback and set the message body, and I've set some default text. And then we're going to return the mail compose view controller. Alright, next thing is to add the following piece of code as well. So this is going to be show send email error alerts. So for whatever reason the email cannot be sent, we're going to show an alert to the user. It's just handy to have. Alright, so again you can just see what I've done here and just copy and paste it. Alright, so now we want to actually show the mail compose view controller when we select the row, the feedback row tapped. So let's do that by adding this piece of code. So what I've done here is I've created a new variable called mail compose view controller equals configured mail compose view controller. So this is the function that we created here, which returns a new mail compose view controller. So we're calling this function here and we're setting it up and we're going to return this view controller back. Okay, the next piece of line here just says if mail compose view controller can send mail equals true, then we're going to present the view controller, otherwise the person will get an alert. Obviously it depends whether the user is able to on his phone send email. If he hasn't got an email account configured, then you can't send mail. So what this does is check for that. If the user can't send mail, it's not going to show the mail compose view controller, it's going to just show the alert saying please set up your device. Okay, so let's just see what happens if we run this now in our simulator. Okay, so we're going to click on send feedback and our mail compose view controller appears. You'll notice two problems here. One being that the to field is empty, it's not showing our email address that we provided over here, and our second thing is that our body is empty. Now this is a problem with the simulator. Okay, if you're following through with this tutorial and you only have a simulator, you will probably run into this problem. If I run this on my phone instead, let me just stop this on the simulator. I want to run the same code on my phone, which is this view over here. This is my iPhone showing, not the simulator. You'll notice if we click on send feedback, we have our email address there and our body there. Okay, I don't know why this is, what the limitation is between the phone and the simulator for not showing this information, but this is something, if you're following through this on purely a simulator, just be prepared to not see some information on your compose view. But it will work if you run this on a device, so keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm going to keep doing this tutorial through my phone. I just want to show you that if you were using a simulator, the limitation of what you would see, but the rest of the demo will be through my own device so we can see what's going on. Alright, so now that we're showing the view controller, you'll notice that if we tap on the cancel button and go delete draft, nothing happens. That's because we haven't set the code to dismiss the view controller now when the user taps cancel. So let's add the piece of code over here, and you can just again follow along as well. Alright, so the piece of code we need to add to file, just type in mail. You'll see that a function is being suggested to you, and that's a function we need. Alright, so just tap enter so it composes the function name, and you'll see that it's called mail compose controller. It takes the mail controller and it gets the results from the mail compose view controller as long as with an error as well. So in the body of the code, we're going to add the following lines of code. So what's going to happen is that this function is going to get called whenever something happens on this mail compose screen. So if I click on cancel, ultimately cancel will be a result for this function here, and so would sending, and so would failing, etc. So whatever result happens here, it will call back to this function, and then we can perform actions based on that result. So because there are going to be multiple results, we want to add a switch statement. And this could be a switch statement, or it could be an if-else statement, but switch is easy because there's quite a few different results that we can cater for. So we're going to say switch result dot value. So you want the value of the results, and we're going to go open and close curly braces. So now our first case, so it'll be a case statement, case mfmail compose result cancelled, and now we're going to say dot value. All right, that's important. And we're going to say just a print line, just for good sake, cancelled mail. Okay. The second one we can say case mfmail compose result sent dot value, and we can say mail sent in our print line. And just to complete the switch statement, we need to add a default. So if no value was found in the switch statement, we're going to default and just break the switch statement, get out of it. All right, I'm doing 2 here, but you'll see if you do another case mfmail, there's a bunch of results that you can cater for, such as failed, saved, etc. But I'm just going to demonstrate the 2 that we want, and that's cancelling and sending for now. You can play around with the others if you want to make it more robust, if something fails or whatever the case. All right, so we have 2 case statements in our switch. And now that we have this, you'll see now if we run this again, we're going to tap send feedback. It's going to show us the email form. We're going to tap cancel, delete draft, and nothing happened. And the reason why is because we need to add 1 more piece of line to this code, which should have been self-explanatory, and we want to say self dot dismiss view controller true and completion nil. All right, so this line is the important line. Here we actually want to dismiss the view controller. These guys here is to cater for any results. So if you want to kind of like make it more robust, or you want to add any conditional actions based on the results of the view controller, you can do it in the switch statement. But this guy here is the important one, which actually dismiss the view controller. So let's do this again and show you what I mean. Cool. So we tap send feedback. Now we tap cancel, delete draft. Cancelled mail appears in our console. So to reach this line over here, it got this cancelled value and it dismissed the view controller. Cool. So that's basically an easy way to do this. And let me just show you that the email does work as well. Let me just add my email address here. Run it again. So we're going to go send feedback. We're going to type here hello. And we're going to tap on send. The view controller dismisses, and you'll see that the mail sent was called because it's received the mail compose result sent value. And if we now go and just look at our email now, you'll see that we have our email. So the email was sent. There you go. Cool. So now you've just created a basic email function in your application. And what else we can do is we can add it to our rate us row. So this is just like an optional thing you can also do with this. So in our rate us row piece of code over here, we're going to add the following code. Okay, so we're going to create a view controller, sorry, an alert controller with the title rates us and a message, are you enjoying our application? If not, send us some feedback. We're going to add 3 buttons, a rate on iTunes button. If they tap on that, we can direct them to the iTunes link of the application. Send us feedback button, which when tapped will then produce the same mail composed view controller, and a cancel button. And then obviously we're going to present this alert controller. Alright, so we build up the alert controller, and we're going to present the alert controller. So let's run this now and see what happens. Okay, so we tap on rate us. Our rate us alert controller appears. If we tap on rate on iTunes, it closes and we reach this piece of code sent to iTunes. If we tap on it again, and we tap on send us feedback this time, it dismisses the alert controller and our compose view controller appears for you to send an email. So that is a great way to encourage user feedback from your users in your application. If you ever want to encourage them to either rate your application, you don't want them to send any negative feedback. They'll probably use that as a channel for that. You want to rather encourage any negative feedback to be sent to your own feedback mail inbox, so you can address any negative feedback. And hopefully, if they have any positive feedback, they'll use the rate us flow. Thanks for watching. This was a Swift tutorial on how to create an email system in your application to receive feedback or comments from your users that use the application. And you'll see it's quite a nice flow. It's very simple to add in and easy to use. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the videos, I would love it if you subscribed. But otherwise, thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.